The series is over. The Rockets advance. And Westbrook and the Thunder will go.
Appears now that the OK3 season is over.
The OKC Thunder had just experienced back-to-back first-round playoff exits against the Houston Rockets and the Utah Jazz during the first two seasons of the Russell Westbrook era. However, entering the 2018-2019 season, expectations for the Thunder continued to soar high, as the team still looked like legitimate championship contenders. For the season, Westbrook would average a triple-double for the third consecutive year, while Paul George, fresh off signing a 4-year extension during the summer, did put together an MVP-caliber season. And with the solid play of supporting players like Steven Adams, Jeremy Grant, and Dennis Schroeder, OKC was still trending in the right direction, as they finished the regular season as the 6th-seeded team in the loaded Western Conference. However, in game number 5 of their first-round playoff series against a number 3-seeded Portland team, Damian Lillard would hit a last-second deep three to beat OKC. Little did the NBA know that this playoff loss would totally change OKC's direction as a franchise moving forward. After OKC's third straight first-round playoff exit, there were obviously a lot of questions regarding the future of the franchise entering the 2019 offseason. However, first off was the 2019 NBA Draft, wherein the Thunder selected the versatile prospect and 6'9" forward Darius Bazley with the 23rd overall pick. But a bigger find for OKC that night came in the form of a 6'4" undrafted guard named Dort, who the team signed to a 2-way contract. But then, just 4 days after the draft, after looking like a team that was just a few strategic pieces away from further climbing up the Western Conference's ladder, GM Sam Presti finally saw an opportunity to begin a new era for the Thunder, as OKC would trade star forward Paul George to the LA Clippers in exchange for an unprecedented draft haul consisting of 5 future first-round picks and 2 future first-round pick swaps spanning until the 2026 draft, with 2 of those picks turning out to become Trey Mann and Jalen Williams. In addition, OKC also received veteran forward Danilo Gallinari and incoming second-year player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was soon to be anointed as the crown jewel of the Thunder's rebuild. Further, just a few days after trading Paul George, OKC also shipped longtime franchise star Russell Westbrook to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Chris Paul, together with 2 future first-rounders and 2 future pick swaps. And while these initial moves that Sam Presti pulled off signaled the beginning of uncertain times for the franchise and its fans, it was also the start of OKC's road towards a promising future, and we saw glimpses of that future beginning in the subsequent 2019-2020 season. Well, the Thunder entered the year as a team with an intriguing mix of veterans and young players, but one that wasn't expected to be competitive. In fact, ESPN only gave this new-look Thunder roster a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs. However, the team had other plans. Led by a starting 5 consisting of CP3, SGA, rookie Dort, Gallinari, and Steven Adams, the 2020 Thunder would go on to be a classic overachiever, finishing with the 5th best record in the Western Conference entering the playoffs, thanks to the career resurgence and veteran leadership of Chris Paul. And while OKC would once again lose in the first round via a hard-fought 7-game series against the Houston Rockets, this season would verify what everyone expected about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the future of the franchise, as the second-year guard finished the season averaging almost 20 points, almost 6 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. But Shai wasn't the only new guy making headlines for OKC, as rookie Dort also introduced himself to the NBA with his tremendous playoff defense against James Harden, all while dropping 30 points in their Game 7 loss to Houston, making Dort only the third 21-year-old in NBA history to score at least 25 points in the game number 7. Realizing that his young assets were starting to take off, Sam Presti again pivoted to making more trades that would finally shift OKC's vision into a full-on rebuild. The shift to a full-on rebuild would begin just a couple months later, as after one brilliant season in OKC, Chris Paul would be traded to the Phoenix Suns in exchange for a package consisting of Ricky Rubio, Kelly Oubre, Ty Jerome, Jalen Lecque, and a 2022 first-round pick. Then, just 2 days after, OKC would also trade backup guard Dennis Schroeder to the LA Lakers in exchange for veteran Danny Green and the 28th pick in the 2020 NBA Draft. These couple of transactions would only be the beginning of a number of moves during the 2020 offseason in which Sam Presti would really start to turn up the volume in terms of acquiring future draft capital. But first up was the 2020 NBA Draft, wherein the Thunder initially entered with a couple of late first-round picks at number 25 and number 28. However, they would go on to ship those two selections together with newly acquired guard Ricky Rubio to the Minnesota Timberwolves, and in exchange, OKC would receive the 17th overall selection in the draft, which they would use to pick up 7-foot Serbian unicorn Aleksej Pokusevski, who was one of the most intriguing prospects from the entire 2020 draft class. Then, in the following days, OKC would orchestrate a couple more trades that would see them moving more veteran players for future assets. And one of those underrated moves that OKC pulled off was trading newly acquired forward Kelly Oubre to the Golden State Warriors, wherein, in exchange, the Thunder received a couple of 2021 second-round picks. And while this might look like an insignificant move, OKC would eventually use one of those picks to select wing player Aaron Wiggins, who would be a crucial role player for the Thunder in the future. The following day, Presti would also proceed to ship big man Steven Adams to the New Orleans Pelicans as part of a 4-team trade with Denver and Milwaukee, wherein OKC would again add another future first-rounder and 2 future second-rounders to their stockpile of draft assets, in addition to receiving a number of players headlined by veteran point guard George Hill. However, the most notable addition from this deal happened to be Kenrich Williams, who would eventually become another high-value role player for the Thunder. Subsequently, OKC would make one last offseason trade by shipping Terrence Ferguson, Danny Green, and Vincent Poirier to the 76ers in exchange for veteran big man Al Horford, 2020 draft selection Theo Maledon, the draft rights to Vasilije Micic, and a 2025 first-round pick. And as the 2020 to 2021 season began, it was clear that the Thunder's rebuild had already kick-started just by looking at the team's opening night roster, which consisted of George Hill, SGA, Lou Dort, Darius Bazley, and Al Horford. Well, OKC did show a lot of holes in their roster as expected from a rebuilding team, but they still looked quite competitive to start the year, and OKC did put up a respectable 19-24 record halfway into the shortened 2021 season. But then, SGA would soon be ruled out for the year due to a foot injury, and soon after, the team would also shut down veteran big man Al Horford. Without Shai on the floor, the Thunder would finish the last 2 months of the season with a 3-26 win-loss record, which led them to a bottom 2 finish in the Western Conference. Soon, it was going to become apparent that all these acquired losses and mid-season tactics were just really going to help fulfill the team's tanking objective. Then, in the 2021 offseason, Sam Presti would further double down on that objective by trading Al Horford together with big man Moses Brown in a 2023 second-rounder to the Boston Celtics, and in exchange, OKC would receive Kemba Walker, Boston's 16th overall pick in the 2021 NBA Draft, as well as a 2025 second-round pick. This would turn out to be another smart deal for Presti, as OKC didn't only acquire additional draft assets, but also some added financial flexibility, because just a couple months later, the team would agree on a buyout with Kemba Walker, leaving almost $20 million on the table for the Thunder. Then came the 2021 NBA Draft, and in his first offseason in possession of his treasure chest of draft selections, Sam Presti went home with an absolute win of a haul. At number 6, OKC would shock the NBA by selecting 6'8" Australian playmaking wizard Josh Giddey, whom a lot of analysts predicted to be a late lottery pick instead. After which, at number 18, OKC would select shot-making guard Trey Mann before drafting 2 other versatile players in the second round and big man Jeremiah Robinson-Earl and forward Aaron Wiggins, with the 32nd and 55th selections respectively. After the draft, it definitely started to look like OKC was finally planning to let their young core take full control of the court next season, but at the same time, the franchise also knew that they had to establish the position of whoever was going to be the face of that young core for the foreseeable future. And so, the organization did exactly that by signing then incoming 4th-year player Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to a 5-year, $172 million rookie max extension. OKC would then begin the 2021 season with a young starting lineup from top to bottom, consisting of Shai, Lou Dort, Darius Bazley, and rookies Josh Giddey and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. And this young roster would actually look very competitive early on, especially after getting 2 signature clutch wins against a veteran Lakers team. However, OKC would once again end up with their second straight losing season and another bottom 2 finish in the Western Conference with a 24-58 record, which isn't surprising at all, after the team once again shut down their best players towards the end stretch of the year. But at this point, it really became apparent that OKC was on the verge of building something special for years to come. Besides Shai and Lou Dort, young pieces like Aleksej Pokusevski and Trey Mann started to show flashes of becoming valuable team cornerstones. but no other player in the team made more headlines than rookie Josh Giddey because of the countless highlight-worthy plays that he made as a 19-year-old. All in all, it was a real phenomenal rookie season for Giddey as he recorded the 3 youngest triple-doubles in NBA history while eventually being selected to the All-NBA Rookie Second Team after averaging 12.5 points, almost 8 rebounds, and 6.4 assists per game. But there was more to come for the Thunder. Just a couple months after the season ended, the franchise got their opportunity to strike gold during the 2022 NBA Draft. After landing the second overall selection during the draft lottery, OKC now had a chance to add another potential star to the mix, which they fulfilled by selecting 7'1" Gonzaga big man Chet Holmgren, who was widely considered as the most talented player from the 2022 draft class. But that was only the beginning of an aggressive draft night plan for Sam Presti, as from there, he would make a couple more strategic additions. To swing for upside, OKC would acquire 6'10" French wing Ousmane Dieng at number 11 by trading 3 future protected first-round picks to the New York Knicks. Then, using their own selection at number 12, OKC would go on to draft a future All-Star and Santa Clara guard Jalen Williams. To cap off their draft haul, the Thunder would select another big man with fascinating upside in Arkansas sophomore Jalen Williams with the 34th overall selection. Then, just a couple weeks after the draft, OKC would make a solid roster move by signing incoming fourth-year player Dort to a 5-year $87 million extension, which would clearly solidify his long-term role as part of the Thunder's future. But then, just as excitement was building up for OKC's new additions to join the team, newly drafted second overall pick Chet Holmgren would suffer a foot injury during a summer Pro-Am game, which would cause him to be ruled out for what was supposed to be his rookie year. This opened up a lot of different questions as to how OKC was going to approach the incoming season. Though just a few days before the 2022 to 2023 season started, OKC would make a last-minute transaction by signing incoming third-year guard Isaiah Joe to a 3-year $6 million deal shortly after he was waived by the 76ers. Joe would eventually be an instant crucial bench piece for this OKC team who would once again start the season playing respectably, as they ended the 2022 calendar year with a 15-21 win-loss record. One notable roster development though came when third-year forward Aleksej Pokusevski, who did start 25 of OKC's first 31 games of the season and who was then starting to average career-high numbers, got hurt with a leg fracture by late December, causing him to miss 48 games. Another development came during the trade deadline, as after being a regular starter over the past 2 years, forward Darius Bazley would get traded to the Phoenix Suns, and in exchange, OKC would receive veteran forward Dario Saric and his expiring contract together with the future second-round pick. Eventually, despite having to deal with a ton of roster experimentation throughout the season, the Thunder was still able to put up a 40-42 win-loss record, placing them as the 10th seed in the Western Conference, which qualified them for the play-in tournament. The Thunder would defeat the New Orleans Pelicans in the first play-in game, but they would still miss the playoffs after getting beat by the Timberwolves in the deciding play-in matchup. However, it was slowly becoming clear that this current OKC team had something special cooking. SGA made the All-NBA first team and was an MVP candidate, but it also looked like OKC might have another star in the making, as Jalen Williams emerged midway into the season with his efficient two-way play as he finished second overall in Rookie of the Year voting after averaging 14 points on a highly efficient 52, 35, and 81% shooting splits. Then came the crucial 2023 offseason, which was known as the summer wherein the NBA started the implementation of the brand new collective bargaining agreement. And while OKC could have easily made one big free agent signing to reach the newly established $122 million cap floor, just like other teams did, Sam Presti instead used the more creative strategy of absorbing unwanted contracts from other teams via trade, while also acquiring draft capital in return. OKC's biggest cap space maneuver actually came on the draft night of 2023 when they used more than half of their cap space to take on Davis Bertans and his $17 million salary for next season from the Dallas Mavericks. And as compensation for clearing their books, the Mavs enabled OKC to move up 2 spots in the draft from number 12 to number 10, which allowed the Thunder to land the prospect of their choice in 6'4" Kentucky combo guard Cason Wallace. But because OKC still wasn't a luxury tax team midway into the offseason, they still had a room exception available, and they used that to finally sign 6'5" Serbian guard Vasilije Micic to a 3-year $23.5 million deal, 3 years after acquiring his rights from the 76ers as part of the Al Horford trade. Now, with the Thunder adding veterans in the lineup, it was becoming apparent that they were ready to take on a more competitive approach with the potential goal of making the playoffs. And that goal was immediately realized for the Thunder as they began the 2023 to 2024 season finally with a healthy Chet Holmgren joining the starting lineup with Shai, Dort, Giddey, and J-Dub. By the end of the 2023 calendar year, the Thunder had put together an impressive 22-9 win-loss record, which was the second best in the Western Conference. And as the season went on, the Thunder maintained their position in the standings, which obviously made them look like championship contenders. So, by the time the 2024 trade deadline came, Sam Presti made a decision that could potentially raise OKC's playoff ceiling even more. He shipped out Trey Mann and newly acquired vets Davis Bertans and Vasilije Micic, together with two future second-rounders to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for veteran forward Gordon Hayward. Just a few days later, in a move that would further shape the team's playoff rotation, the Thunder would waive Aleksej Pokusevski after being a significant rotation piece for the team over the past 3 years. The Thunder would then finish the 2024 regular season with an impressive 57-25 record, allowing them to clinch the top seed in the Western Conference and making the 2024 Thunder the youngest team in league history to clinch the number 1 seed. Shai would fall to second place behind Nikola Jokic in the MVP race, but he would still make his second straight All-NBA first-team appearance. Meanwhile, Chet Holmgren would finish second in Rookie of the Year voting, only behind Victor Wembanyama. Further, to validate the young Thunder's accomplishments, the NBA would name Mark Daigneault as the 2024 NBA Coach of the Year. And with that came the return of the OKC Thunder to the NBA playoffs after 4 years. Headlined by the strong attack of a new Big Three in Shai, J-Dub, and Chet, the Thunder would sweep the New Orleans Pelicans in the first round, but in the second round, OKC's playoff inexperience and roster holes would eventually show, which led them to fall to Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks in 6 competitive games. From then on, it became apparent that the Thunder were gonna need to make a significant roster change during the offseason to build a stronger and more dynamic roster. The first of those roster changes would come just a month into the 2024 offseason, as the Thunder would ship longtime starting guard Josh Giddey to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for veteran guard Alex Caruso, one of the best defenders in the NBA. Then, a couple days later, came the 2024 NBA Draft, and in what was considered a surprise move by a lot of fans, OKC drafted 6'6" Serbian guard Nikola Topic with the 12th overall selection. Just a few months before the draft, Topic was widely projected to be a top 5 pick, but after suffering a couple of knee injuries which culminated with a partially torn ACL, Topic's draft stock took a huge hit. Nonetheless, as an 18-year-old player, Topic looked like a star in Europe's Adriatic League while competing mostly against grown men, wherein he would average 15 points, 6 assists, and 3 rebounds while shooting more than 50% from the field during his pre-draft season, all while displaying major shot creation and playmaking prowess. Topic is expected to step on the court for the Thunder beginning the 2025 to 2026 season. Then, after the draft, the Thunder would zero in on the free agent market to finally target someone who could help address the interior size and rebounding issues that have plagued the team the past couple years. And that target came in the form of 7-foot big man Isaiah Hartenstein, who the Thunder were able to land via a 3-year $87 million contract, making Hartenstein the biggest free agent signing in OKC Thunder history. This is when fans finally saw how valuable the Gordon Hayward trade was for the Thunder. While Hayward didn't pan out on the court, his expiring salary and massive cap hold opened up the cap space needed for the Thunder to sign Hartenstein to a long-term contract. But aside from adding new players, OKC would still cap off a loaded offseason by giving emphasis on roster continuity by signing role players Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe to contract extensions, with Wiggins receiving a 5-year $47 million deal and Joe signing a 4-year $48 million extension. Now, it appears that the Thunder would enter the brand new season with the deepest and most dynamic team they've had since the Russell Westbrook era, but then there came unexpected setbacks. In a preseason game against Denver, newly acquired big man Isaiah Hartenstein suffered a non-displaced hand fracture, which caused him to miss the first month and a half of the season. Then, just 10 games in, Chet Holmgren also suffered a hip fracture, which sidelined him for around 10 weeks. However, these didn't stop OKC from looking dominant. They quickly established themselves as the top dog in the Western Conference as they entered the 2025 calendar year with a strong 27-5 win-loss record, while sporting the NBA's best defense as well as a top 3 offense. By early February, Chet Holmgren returned from injury and he finally shared the floor with Isaiah Hartenstein, which made the Thunder even scarier, while Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was quickly establishing himself as a potential MVP frontrunner. OKC would finish a historical 2025 regular season with an NBA best 68-14 win-loss record, making the 2025 Thunder only the 7th team ever to win at least 68 games in a season. They've also ended the year having put up the biggest average point differential in league history, the second best net rating by any team ever, as well as the best defense that any team has played over the past 50 years. To further validate this team's dominance, Dort would be named to his first All-Defense first team, Jalen Williams would be selected to an All-NBA third team, an All-Defense second team, and his first All-Star team. And to top it all off, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander would be named the scoring champion and the regular season MVP, making him the third MVP in Thunder history after Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, in a season wherein Shai put up the best two-way stat line from any guard since Michael Jordan. Then, in their second straight postseason as the best team in the Western Conference, OKC would waste no time by sweeping Ja Morant and the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. They would overcome a tough test by defeating Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets in a tightly contested 7-game second-round series, before eventually making quick work of Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves in a 5-game conference finals battle. And then, in an NBA Finals series full of last-minute shockers and clutch moments, OKC would eventually defeat Tyrese Haliburton and the Indiana Pacers in 7 games to give the franchise their first championship ever as the Oklahoma City Thunder, with SGA being named the 2025 Finals MVP after he became just the 4th player in NBA playoff history to have at least 15 games with at least 30 points scored in a single postseason, alongside Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Hakeem Olajuwon. The thing is, this might only be the beginning for OKC's potential road to a dynasty. Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren are both primed to sign max extensions in the 2026 offseason, while SGA is eligible to sign his own supermax in the summer of 2027, and all three of them are not even in their primes yet. Outside of Isaiah Hartenstein, who has a player option for the 2026 to 2027 season, OKC's other core players are all pretty much locked up for at least 2 to 3 more years, and the Thunder also have all the tools to keep replenishing their roster once it becomes too expensive. OKC owns 2 first-round picks in this year's draft at 15 and 24, 3 first-rounders in 2026, and another 2 in 2027 and 2029. Aside from that, they still own pick swaps with the Clippers in 2027 and the Mavericks in 2028. If that's not enough, they also own 14 second-round picks from 2028 to 2031. It is fascinating how just 6 years after trading away their franchise player, the OKC Thunder were already able to win at the highest level. But there's no reason to believe that they can continue to do so by dominating the NBA for the majority of the next decade. If you guys did happen to enjoy this video, please do me a favor by hitting that like button, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing as well. Again, this has been Real Balls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.